Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Big Girl Brunch. I'm Bern, and this is the June episode. It is June 29, so again, we are running late. But at this point, I feel like that's just part of the podcast schedule. Um, June has been so busy. Earlier this month, I had to finish school stuff because if you didn't know, I'm taking a certification in education in UP, and it was my last sem, and I had to finish requirements for my last two subjects for the certification. For one of my classes, I had to prepare for a micro teaching session. I had two group mates, but yeah, we had to prepare a lesson plan, and then we had to prepare the materials, and then we also had to do the micro teaching, of course. So it sounds like it's easy, but it was actually a lot of work. And then with my actual work, it's just been a lot of creating materials for different teams, like communication materials. So, and then on top of that, we also had the dramaturgy fellowship of the Virgin Lab Fest still. Um, as a fellow, I'm not gonna bore you with that stuff, but I had to prepare some stuff for that as well, and that basically took up all of that took up my whole month. Um, I've been very busy, and I promised myself that for the next few months, I will not be taking on something so stressful outside of my job because my job is already a lot, and I just have been doing a lot of things the first half of the year, so I want to relax a bit. Like life's already difficult. I I just want to kind of let myself rest. Um what else has been going on in my life? I'm trying to think. I've been trying to vlog more with my new camera. Have I told you guys that I got a new camera? I'm not sure I did. So sorry if I have, but I will tell you again because I can't remember. I got a new camera. I finally got the Osmo Pocket 3 after thinking for like months if I should get a new camera. I'm gonna release a YouTube video about that, so I'm not gonna go into a lot of the details, but the Spark Spark Notes Spark Notes ba Sparks Notes Spark Notes the Spark Notes version is that I've been missing vlogging, and um my old camera's just really difficult to carry around to actually vlog. So I got a new camera, and I hope it encourages me to film my life more because I do want to look back on it when I'm older and when my life has changed. Oh, we also had to organize an event for work, and Filipina coincidentally turned one during that event. So our dog had her first birthday, and I'm just so proud of her. I love her so much. She's such a precious thing. Like, she's very clingy, and I think high maintenance for a dog, but I love her. I love her to pieces, and I was so happy to have been able to buy her ice cream for her birthday. Another cool thing is that an agency asked me about doing a podcast episode for a brand aside from transport, and I don't think I got it, but it is very cool to me that I'm being asked about my podcast as a creator online, and I'm just hoping that keeps happening. It was just really cool, I guess, to feel like I was being seen. I just really felt that in my bones, and I felt really proud of this project, I guess, and the work that I've put in this project, because I think I did get the Jan Sport podcast because of this podcast, right? Oh, also last one, really really cool. Do you know JG Superstore? This is not a brand placement on my podcast because no one really asks for a brand placement on my podcast. But if you know JG Superstore, I signed up for their creator program, and they sent me the Camp Snap camera for an X deal. And obviously, most of the time I don't like XDLs, but if the product is really cool, I'll give it a go. And the Camp Snap is basically a screenless digital camera. I would say it's a toy camera because people would just expect crazy quality if you don't say that it is. So I would say it's still a toy camera, but it's really cool. It looks like this for those who are watching the video. And you transfer your photos through your phone. Very, very cool. And it's even cooler to me because that's the first time I've been sent a camera ever, basically for free. I mean, I still have to do the video, but you know. Oh, also last thing is that um if you know the Virgin Lab Fest, it is a festival, a play festival for one act plays in the Philippines, and I submit a script every year because at its core it's a playwright festival, and the results for next year is coming out today, and I don't think I got it, and that's okay. I think I actually submitted a good script, but that just happens. I just wanted to acknowledge that so that, I don't know, rejection is okay. Like, failing is okay, I guess. I guess it's time to go to our actual topic, which is basically friendships as an adult or adult friendships. I don't know yet what sounds the best. Adult friendships, friendships as an adult, maintaining friendships in your 20s, friendships in your 20s. But yeah, we'll figure it out as I do the editing and thumbnailing. But you get what I mean. Like, we'll talk about having friends as an adult. Okay, so I actually wrote my notes on this notebook. If you're watching the video version, here I what the tentative title is adult friendships building and maintenance. I didn't realize how difficult friendships would be as an adult because I think we take for granted how easy it is to build friendships and maintain friendships in school. Friendships in school, at least for me, were very easy, or at least easier than it is as an adult out of school now. Because in school, if you really think about it, you are in forced proximity with kids or students or children who are the same age as you, and you don't even have to think about it. This is a bad comparison, but it's basically like you put your dog in a dog park, they'll eventually find a friend to play with, another dog to play with, right? So it's the same idea with the school. If you put your kid in a school with people there's the same age, with people who can be their peers, they will find friends. And obviously, sometimes it's hard and it's lonely in school, but you get the point. Personally, I was lucky enough to always find friends every school year, and for a long time I was in the same friend group, I was in the same circle. Obviously there were struggles in school, you know, those school years or academic years where you're not in the same section with any of your friends and you kind of just have to figure it out. Obviously there's that, and then sometimes we'll drift apart with one of the people from the friend group, but generally it was smooth sailing for me in terms of friend groups. I often found myself being adopted by an extrovert without me even trying, because for context, I am an introvert. I think I've been an introvert since I was a kid. And there is a large misconception that being an introvert means you're very shy and you don't want to make friends and you just want to be alone. That's not what an introvert is. I'm not a psych major, but from what I understand, introverts and extroverts differ in terms of how they recharge or how they get their energy. So extroverts get more energized or get recharged when they are in community with other people, when they're socializing with other people. That's how they recharge their battery as a person. But introverts are the opposite. So they recharge through being alone, through taking time to be with themselves. Being an introvert doesn't mean you don't want to have friends. Being an introvert just means that you need your alone time, even though you have friends, to recharge, you have to be alone after a while. And obviously, there are stereotypes na introverts are shy, and some introverts are shy, some introverts are awkward, but it doesn't, being an introvert doesn't mean you're gonna be shy, or being an introvert doesn't mean you're gonna be awkward. Sometimes I really identify with those things. Sometimes I really feel shy, I really feel awkward, but I think that's just me as a person. It's not because I'm an introvert. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that up. Um, I do think that because I'm an introvert, sometimes I can be a little timid. So yeah, I found myself being adopted by an extrovert when I was really young, by one of my best friends for a really long time. When I was in grade 1, well, when I was in kinder, I had a best friend in the preschool I was going to. And then when we transferred to a Catholic school, we were still friends, but then I got adopted by another extrovert. So then she became my best friend. And there was just like a lot of overlap. And then my first best friend left. So my other best friend became my main best friend. Whatever, there's a lot of that. And then I was basically stuck with the same people for a really long time. Not stuck in a bad way, but you are with your batchmates for a really long time if you don't transfer schools. Because at least for our school, we only had 2 sections for grade school and then 3 sections for high school. So it's not a very big group per batch. So you are generally with the same people you've grown up with. Everyone basically knows each other. So friendships, I think, weren't that much of a challenge. And when we were in high school, I was with the same section for 4 years because we were quote unquote the advanced section, which is now a problematic term, I believe. You shouldn't be dividing students like that or calling them a star section or whatever. I don't know. I think that's discriminating a little, and that is demeaning to the quote unquote the regular sections. Anyway, so there's just a lot of ways to make friends with these people because you know them for so long. They can be your seatmates, they can be your club mates. You can make friends with other batches because you're basically in the same building. You have a community without even thinking about it or without even trying. You have the space to find people who have the same interests as you, and you don't even have to look that far. You go to school with peers every day. It's just, I think, so easy, and you don't even realize it because it's natural to you. You just have to go to school. For us, there was even more layers to it because I studied in a St. Paul's school before college, and we had these things called leadership trainings every summer. A lot of people don't know this, but there are actually a lot of St. Paul's schools in the Philippines. If I remember correctly, around 40 branches in different regions in different provinces. And so what would happen is every summer, people or students from these St. Paul schools would sign up for this thing called leadership training. And we would all be going to St. Paul Pasig and having a leadership training there with like a bunch of different St. Paul schools. And so we would just be there for a week sleeping in the St. Paul Pasig classrooms, and we would have the time to make friends with other St. Paul schools. So there was just so much space to find other people who are the same age as you. I think the advantage of school in general also is you don't have, well, obviously these things still happen, but generally you don't have to worry about your kid looking for friends in dangerous spaces because they are with kids who are the same age as them. And obviously there's still dangers. Obviously they can still go to the internet. Obviously their teachers can prey on them. But what I mean is that a lot of the people they're surrounded with are the same age as them, and that's not a guessing game for the parents. That was us. Even in St. Paul Pasig, it was a bunch of prepubescent kids and early teenagers. So it's really like this large pool of options for friends. And I've actually made some friends from those trainings as well, from different St. Paul schools, and that's really cool. So yeah, so that's school, right? That's specifically basic education. And then in college, I think for me, you're exposed to an even larger group of people which you can be friends with, and they're also around the same age as you. So there's different ways, right? Of course, you have your block if you have block sections, which I think a lot of colleges have. So you're with your block who are also your course mates. So you have common ground. You basically have an interest in the same thing, which is your course. And then there's also the larger pool of your course mates if you're more than a block. And that's even more people who have the same interest as you or similar interests as you. For me specifically, since I was in fine arts creative writing in Ateneo, we kind of all have a passion for writing. So we have that to bond about, we have that to talk about, and that is just a jumping point to friendship, but it is a very easy entry point. And then obviously, aside from your course and your block or section or whatever, there's also orgs that you can join. In orgs, you're exposed to even more people who might not be the same course as you but have an interest in something else that you have an interest in. For me, I was really like a writing lit art girly. So I was in our literary and art publication in Ateneo Heights, and I found a lot of my friends there because we all have the same interest in literature and art, and we love talking about these things. That's why we are in that org. And then I also found friends in this org that's it's like student welfare and services. And I was student council before, but I didn't join because I was so like I loved serving my fellow students. I was there because I needed service hours as a scholar in Ateneo. But I found myself enjoying my hours in that org because you get to meet a lot of people. You basically have your shifts with new people every sem and you meet them and you basically bond with them because you're with them for a specific schedule during the whole semester. In that org, there's also the part where you talk to other students because you're student welfare and services. So you're at the front desk and they ask you about whatever, like lost and found, or they want to borrow something, or I don't know, they have concerns. So it's just a lot of interaction with other students that you can make friends with. There's just so many chances to make friends in college, and I've seen some people bloom even more in college because they're exposed to basically a larger group of people with more options, right? There's new people, new faces every year. So yeah, it's school and friendships. School just makes friendship so much easier, and maintaining friendships is also easy because you see these people all the time. Even if you don't try, you will just see them in school. You don't have to think of maintenance, basically, because they're just there. So you'll gravitate towards them no matter what. Even in college, you'll just see these people because you have similar commitment. So they'll just be there. But when you're not in the institution that is school, it just becomes so much harder, and you realize how you've taken school for granted as this breeding ground, I guess, for friendships. I first realized this during the pandemic. I wasn't even a graduate yet, but I realized that without the forced proximity of school, of physical school, face to face, it is harder to maintain friendships, not just because you're not going to school, it's also because you're not allowed to go out and meet them. So you're stuck in your houses, you're doing classes through Zoom. Personally, it was very, very difficult for me on so many levels. Some of my friendships were really damaged during the pandemic. So at first, it was easy because it was just a month, 2 months. And then as that extended, I don't know, it just eroded some friendships that I had, I guess. I think some of that was, I guess I didn't realize that when you don't see people so often, you constantly check up on them. So, because you're a friend, you care about them. And I guess I feel like I didn't do this enough with some of the people that I really loved. So maybe that was a reason why our friendships ended, etc., etc. Another difficult thing for me during the pandemic, aside from being online, was that I was not in my hometown. So for context, a lot of my closest friends were from Bulacan. A lot of my closest friends before, because I went to school with them during basic education. And obviously, I had close friends from college, but not as close as my grade school, high school friends. My barkada. So, because of the pandemic, they all moved back to our hometowns, because we don't all live in the same town, but we all are in the same area. So they moved back because their family's there. And what's the point of renting a dorm or a condo or an apartment or whatever if your classes are online? But obviously, they want to be close with their loved ones because it was a very scary time. But for me, I didn't move back to my hometown because most of my loved ones, most of my families already moved to the city. And so we were all here in the city. So why would I move back to my hometown when everyone else is here? And so my friends, my hometown friends, would see each other often because COVID was not as scary in the small towns. And so they would just have the freedom to see each other, and I would be here in the city just hanging out with them online. And obviously, that's okay. Like, that's no one's fault. But I think that really builds, that really puts a distance between you guys, because they're hanging out, they're building new memories, and you're just not part of it, right? It was a sad time for me. And again, I think I also should have been more proactive in just being online and present. There's just a lot going on, and I just didn't realize how important it was at the time. I think that part of my life really damaged my friendships. Like, for context, that's really, I would really call that era of my life a friendship breakup era. And it's not just with a person, it's with multiple people, it's with a friend group. Obviously, I don't want to dwell on it too much, and I don't want to give away too many details because it doesn't really concern you, or it doesn't really matter, and it doesn't have to be on the internet. But until now, I just really can't pinpoint what the one thing is, because it just slowly eroded and we slowly lost that connection. Yeah, a lot of it is because we were not in the same area. We were not in the same place. They could see each other and I couldn't see them. But also during the pandemic, I realized how powerful the internet really is when it comes to maintaining these connections, because obviously I failed in some areas, like with that group. But I also strengthened some friendships online during the pandemic. I would hang out with org mates on Discord. We would do games on Discord. My partner and I started dating during the pandemic as well, and we would also hang out on Discord. We would watch movies online. That's when I realized that the internet is really a place to maintain friendships, because before that point I would chat with my friends and catch up, but then we would still meet each other a lot. I was also just never the kid that made friends online, because I felt like I could have all of the friends that I wanted in school. So I don't know, I just didn't look anywhere else. But yeah, so the pandemic was really, really tough. Also, I think, you know how I told you that I rarely ever made friends online when I was younger? I think during the pandemic and with the rise of TikTok, I have made a few friends online, which is really cool. The internet is a really big and scary place, but it is also very cool sometimes. I've hung out with the people that I met on TikTok, and they are very, very cool people. I still meet up with them, so that's so cool. I just wish I could make more friends online. It's hard. The next bullet point I put here is friendship breakups, which I guess I already talked about, but I guess we can go back to it a bit. So before adulthood, I didn't really experience a tough friendship breakup. I would not be connected to a friend for maybe a few years, but then we'll just jump right back into it and it would be the same. But this was really like, oh wow, so friends actually break up, and I had to process that, and I it was a very hard time in my life. I often reflect, not naman often, but I still sometimes reflect on what went wrong, and I often wonder what I did wrong, because I don't think it's just me or it's just them. I think it's both ways. But really, with friendship breakups, I guess you can try to reconnect, but another thing you can just do is move on, because what else is there to do? What else is there to do, right? If you think you've expressed yourself, your desire to be friends with these people, and they just it just didn't happen, then it didn't happen. I don't think there's a point in dwelling in these things, especially as an adult. I am 26 years old. Like, why? So that brings us to nurturing friendships as a grown up, as an adult, as a girl in your 20s, right? Because I think that's really a part of why my friendship breakups happened. I guess I couldn't nurture it, but I don't think it's just me. Like, I think both sides, we couldn't nurture it properly, and that's why it died. And so now I guess I recognize even more how important it is to be conscious of nurturing and maintaining, I guess, even though it's an ugly word, these friendships that you've made, because not everyone is going to be there all of the time. I have this best friend from who's in Spain. I think we're lucky because we don't always talk, but we know that we're always here for each other. But other people don't know that. You have to express it to them regularly so that they know that you're still friends, right? When I left school, I realized that adult friendships are even harder to maintain and to keep and to nurture, because you are all very busy people. You are all working or taking post grad or in different places, and it's just a lot. There's a lot of working. And then when you're not working, you're exhausted. You're too exhausted. You're too exhausted to see these people. So what then? I saw this TikTok saying that if you want community and if you want to have friendships, if you want to have friends as a grown up, you just have to accept that sometimes you have to do things tired. If you set a date, if you set a friend date with a group or a person, even though you're tired, just go to that date because you'll be happy that you did. And it's always psyching yourself up to hyping yourself up to go to the dates and the hangouts and the schedule that you made is half of the battle. So there's also this thing that people say that the price of community is the effort or something like that. So what I'm saying is that you just really have to commit to these hangouts, because they don't happen as often either when you're a grown up. You have to go through so many calendars to set a group hangout with people, right? For me, I still wish I saw my friends more often. Some of them I see once a year, some of them I see twice a year, some of them I see quarterly, some years not even quarterly. I do wish I saw these people more, but it's just really hard to schedule when you're seeing different friend groups from different parts of your life, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's just harder that way, but I think that's just also being an adult. I am really happy with I really love my friends, and I'm so grateful that we make time to see each other. And it's just difficult, but it's okay. I think it is important to make time to see them when you can. And I think it's also important to give them grace when it's really impossible, right? It I don't often see my college friends, but I keep up with them online. I see my senior high friends more often. With the topic of finding it harder to schedule friend hangouts because they're different groups, I wanted to talk about my one of the best birthdays I've had in recent years, which was my 25th birthday. So when I turned 25 last year, I had a dilemma because I did not know what I wanted to do for my birthday. I knew I wanted to hang out with my friends, but I didn't know how to do it. Do I set separate lunches with them? Do I set separate dinners with them? And my partner was like, no, just put them all together in one venue for your birthday and it will be fine. But for me, I was very, very afraid of doing that because I'm not a very good host. I don't know how these people will interact with each other. And I was very afraid that they won't click. But I think I forgot that a lot of my friends are very outgoing and lovely people and will just talk to anyone. So I didn't have a difficult time at all. Everyone just had someone to talk to. For context, I had my Ateneo friends, which are also different groups. I have my org mates, I have a blockmate. I had Ateneo friends who I made during the pandemic and are also my partner's friends. I had my senior high friends from Quezon City, and I have my senior high friends from Bulacan. I had my high school friends. I had my leadership friend. I just, there's just, it was just really a mix of, I had blockmates, pala, not blockmate. It was really just like a mix of different people from different parts of my life, and I didn't know if they would gel, and I think they did. And it was such a lovely night. I'm so happy I didn't have to worry because everyone took care of themselves very, very well. And just recently, I hung out with one of my friends from the leadership trainings and then one from senior high in San Miguel. So before we hung out for my birthday, they didn't know each other, but just a week ago or like a few days ago, we hung out all three of us together, and I think I I don't know, my heart's just so happy that that's even possible, and I just really love my friends, and I'm really really grateful that they're all just so open to hanging out with each other. I think another thing that really helps with maintaining friendships as an adult, even though it sounds stupid, is Instagram dump accounts. For me, because I am mutuals with my friends' dump accounts on Instagram and they see me, you update them more often than your personal public Instagram account. It's just easy to keep up with everyone without having to constantly be like, hey, how are you? And then you can just reply to people's stories, you can comment on their posts. It's like, it feels like when Facebook was still a small place where you talk to your real life friends. It's basically like that. And I will always be grateful for these dump accounts because I think it really does wonders when it comes to nurturing adult friendships. And again, of course, when you go on your annual dates or when I go with my annual dates with these different circles, we do the round of what happened basically the past year, just catch up and ask many questions, set a long period of time to debrief. It's really just celebrating and supporting each other. Something that really meant a lot to me was last year. I was part of this anthology where my poem was published, and the launch was in Cubao Expo, and my friends went different groups, and I just being able be feeling like I was being celebrated and supported by my friends means so much, and I just wish I can do the same for them for a really long time. And of course, you talk with them when they're sad, but it's also very important to let them know that you cherish them and are so proud of them and how much they've grown. So yeah, that's nurturing friendships, but there's also the question of how do you find friends and how do you make friends when you're an adult because you're not in school. And again, some of them I've found on TikTok, some of them I've accidentally found online, but really it's different places. Like I've found friends from work. I have close work friends that obviously they're work friends, and it's basically like school where you guys are friends because you're in forced proximity with each other, but you've also had this connection that you really can't deny. There's also looking for organizations or groups that you want to join as an adult. Some people find friends through book clubs, some run and find friends through running groups. Some people join volunteer groups. I personally am part of a storytelling group because my partner was because my partner knows the founder of the group, and then it's just been growing and now I'm part of it, and I've found a lot of my new friends because of that group. And I often find myself feeling like I'm in a community when we do our activities every month, because we have a monthly event, a storytelling event, and I've really found fulfillment and community in that space, and I am always so grateful. There's also the option of looking for workshops or fellowships where you might learn about something you're interested in while also being with peers. I find this with writing workshops and writing, I guess, fellowships where you are with other people who have the same interest as you, which is basically writing or maybe theater or maybe film, and you talk about your work or your works, but you also get to know other people and make friends with these people, make connections with these people. There's so many different places where you can look when you're an adult, which I think makes it even harder because the world is so big. Where do you even start looking for new people to be friends with? And I think it just I don't even know. I don't even have advice because I think I was just lucky to stumble upon the people that I've made friends with recently. But I think it's also really zeroing in on what hobbies you want to try, what interests you want to pursue. And from pursuing those things, I think you just find community with other people who like the same things, and you find friendships in those. I'm not going to say that I have it all figured out because I don't. And often I still find myself wishing that I had a friend group that I saw all the time, who I've with people that I've known since I was a kid, but that's just not the cards I've been dealt with. I do have, though, this one grade school friend who I just saw yesterday, who I'm like, I just love him so much. He taught me about Lady Gaga and America's Next Top Model, and um, it's just so. I think it's just so valuable to me that we've known each other since we were kids, and we still choose to hang out with each other and see each other grow and be proud of each other, even though we're 26, 25 at this point. And yeah, I guess also because of that, I crave more friendships like that. And there's always the option to reconnect with other people from your batch who's like, they've known you since you were a kid and they were a kid. So there's also that, but I have not tried that recently. Maybe I will. I'll update you. I'm not the most outgoing person, but we'll see. There is still a lot of work and figuring out to do from my end, but I am very grateful to the friends that I have now, and I will not trade them for the world. I do think that these different friend groups bring out different parts of me, which I will always be grateful for. And I hope that you got something from this episode, because I feel this really is close to my heart. And I hope, if you're having a hard time with friendships as an adult, I hope you figure it out soon and let me know if I can help you with anything. I will, I guess, see you guys next month. Bye. See you in July.